All right, well, greetings, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of the Schrodinger's Box subscribers around the world, almost 250,000 of you now, can you believe it? So totally different video today. This is just going to be a special, hopefully for you guys who are much more hardcore subscribers to the channel and you watch every video and probably have been here, many of you guys, since the very beginning, some 8 years ago now. I wanted to show you some appreciation for that by reviewing a little bit of the more popular videos that we've done in the past. We'll also give you some trivia and some behind the scenes information on some of the more interesting background stories of some of the videos as well. And we'll also cover, of course, some of the more controversial repairs and things on the channel. We certainly have not been without controversy, but again, sometimes the backstories and information not shown in the video may change your perspective on that. So a couple things. First of all, for maximum effect, I suggest if you have any Schrodinger's Box swag, you go ahead and put that on, find a comfortable chair, sit back and relax. If you have your Schrodinger's Box mug, fill it with your favorite drink. And again, we're not going to be doing a lot of typical brainiac high-level diagnostics and things and looking at overlaying ignition signal with relative compression to find timing issues or something. No, not in this video. This one, while I recover from surgery here, you guys also will be able to relax and lay back and hopefully just enjoy for the next hour or so reviewing some of your favorite videos and learn a little bit more about the channel. One thing, spoiler alert, obviously, as we review these videos, we're going to be talking about what the end issue was and things. So I realize most of you guys love the chase. So you like to not know what is wrong with the car, just like I don't know. Follow along in the diagnostics. Take your own path as we go through with the data. See if it matches what I do. See if we come to the same conclusion. And I can definitely appreciate that. So be advised, if you see a video coming up that you haven't seen before, you may want to fast forward through that, watch that video first so that you don't have the spoiler. But other than that, let's get started. So as you guys are well aware, the vast majority of the videos that we do on this channel are actually for charity because I am a do-it-yourselfer. I am not a professional mechanic. I do not make a living off of fixing cars. I do it as a hobby, but you actually can make quite a bit of money from it. Oftentimes we don't, though. As a matter of fact, as you guys have seen recently, it's just the opposite. We've often donated now even the parts for the repair because I thought the videos would be so good. It would be great material for you guys. So as the channel has grown and things, we're able to do more of this. Obviously, I like to do things for military veterans. I like to do things for handicapped people. People with disabilities that life is challenging enough. I have a real soft spot in my heart for people like that. Students getting to school, people who need reliable transportation for work, things like that. Many cars I fix to make them meet the standards so they can drive for Uber. I always, as you know, like to help people help themselves. And we will continue to do that, of course. Those are the most important, other than the one video we're going to start with a review on, and that is, of all the repairs, the most important one, and that is, of course, my own car. So you guys are well familiar, of course, with Blackbird, my 2000 Trans Am WS6. Dyno tested at 710 rear wheel horsepower. It has a LS2 engine supercharged with ProCharger supercharger that was custom built from an engine builder here in Denver, Colorado. And that was approximately, I want to say 2.5 to 3 years ago, something like that. And it didn't go exactly according to plan. So we actually covered this on Schrodinger's Box Quantum Mechanics. So those viewers are very well aware, but in case you aren't, about 3 months ago maybe or so, had a little issue with the Trans Am there, and that was a valve spring that failed, and when the valve spring failed, it dropped the valve into the cylinder. On Schrodinger's Box Quantum Mechanics course, we didn't know that at the time. We diagnosed the issue, and of course, when we found there was an issue in cylinder number 2, we did some diagnostics to discover the actual cause of the failure, and went through the repair too as well. Well, I am thrilled to report that Blackbird over there is doing fantastic. The repair was totally successful. The car runs absolutely as smooth as before the incident. And man, dodged a bullet there for sure. Had that valve punched a hole through the piston crown. That may have been the demise of Blackbird, to be honest with you, given the expense involved with, doing the whole engine thing again. So luckily it just left a scratch on the piston crown. No big deal. The car runs absolutely perfectly. So a happy ending on that one, just for you guys who are following along. Let's talk about a car, however, where there wasn't quite such a happy ending. So many of you guys will remember this earlier video from about 8 years ago. This was a Volvo with a really wicked hunting problem. The idle would surge and fade and surge and fade. And it turned out that this was a problem with the electronic throttle body. You guys will probably remember me struggling with the design of this throttle body quite a bit in this video. But we did end up doing the repair on it. And what you don't know is not only where the car is now, but a little bit of interesting backstory on it. So this repair was actually to help a woman who was actually a recovering alcoholic. She was in a program for recovery, and I was hoping that by helping fix her car and everything, she had just started a new job, getting her life back on track. And especially with the repair, hopefully this was going to make things really good for her. Well, it turns out that 3 days after the repair, she had a relapse, and while driving drunk, drove the car off the road and completely totaled the car. So obviously I was more disappointed in her than I was in my beautiful repair being trashed like that. But things didn't end too well with that car, and quite honestly, I kind of severed ties with that woman because I just, kind of felt like I gave her the chance, and she had great opportunity in front of her, and, people have to make their own decisions. So not a very happy ending on that one. While we're on this, let's get to one that kind of really has an unhappy ending. A good number of you will remember this gem. This is not only just a very popular video with well over 1 million views now, but also one of my more humanitarian examples as well. This was an older model Honda Civic that had a fuel gauge issue where the fuel gauge always stuck full. This car belonged to an older African-American gentleman named Marcel, who quite honestly was unforgettable. He was a vibrant character. He was probably, I believe he was somewhere between 75 and 80 years old, amazingly energetic and very active. You remember me cleaning out the trunk to get to the fuel gauge and all of the sports equipment and things in there. That kind of caught me off guard. He was a retired CAD/CAM engineer for a company that makes ball bearings of all things. And what was fascinating was he invited me into his humble house one day after I brought his car back to him. And he showed me a lot of the art that he made with these ball bearings, where he would make a little like almost like a color by number thing, where he would paint some of the ball bearings or had different colored ones. It would make different paintings. He welded some of them into statues. There were some ball bearings that were just little tiny ones that you might find in, like a bearing for a distributor or something, all the way up to huge ball bearings the size of your fist that were used in industrial applications, and he would weld them into like statues and things like that. And he was an incredible guy. I just like this guy so much that while fixing some things on his car, I just happened to notice this fuel gauge issue, and he had said it had been doing that for years. So of course the whole point of the video is I surprise him by fixing the issue for free, and we attempted to fix it by just cleaning up the resistor, the sweep resistor on the sending unit, and holy cow, it actually worked. So what happened is about 3 weeks later, I texted Marcel and I asked him, hey, I am just curious, did the fuel gauge thing still hold up? Is that still working? He said, no, actually only about 3 days prior, it had again stuck to full as before, but it worked great for like 2 weeks. But he wasn't worried about it. He really just appreciated my trying and everything. So what I did was I told him, well, I really had hoped that this would work, and what I will do is, at my expense, the sending unit is not very expensive at all. I will replace it free of charge. It's super easy to do. There's such easy access through the trunk, and I would like to fix it for him. And he said if I'm willing to do that, he will accept, but of course he didn't see it as any priority for him. So I went and I got the sending unit, made an appointment with him a week later. And when I texted him that I was on my way, according to our appointment, I didn't hear back from him, and called him a couple times, got nothing on the phone. I don't even think he set up a voicemail that I remember. And so I went ahead anyway over to his house, and he lived with a significant other who informed me that he actually had passed away just a few days ago at this time. And unbeknownst to me, this whole time that I had been interacting with this amazing guy, he was dying of terminal cancer. I had no idea. And he passed away just like that. So that is really a heartbreaking one. But this is one of my favorite videos on the channel because the backstory, if you knew this guy, looking back, I wish I got him on camera. He was so entertaining, but not a good ending on that one. Here's another hugely popular video that people really enjoyed following, and this one definitely threw me for a couple of chases. This is the Jeep that kept eating fuel pumps. So this Jeep owner came to me because every year, almost you could set your watch to it every year, this vehicle would keep eating fuel pumps, and he had to get a new fuel pump every year, and he wanted to see if there was something I could do to figure out the problem. So after doing extensive electrical testing, given my more limited capabilities at that time, but we could still do voltage drop and amperage measurements and things like that. We just didn't do them as efficiently as we do now. But we were able to determine the actual cause was because the shop that kept replacing this fuel pump never cleaned out the fuel tank between the fuel pump changes, and it kept on clogging and straining the pump and causing early failure. We also had a very interesting interview with the owner of the Jeep, talking about the frustration with what customers very often experience with misdiagnosis and things like that. And of course, I want to bring up, because I know I've got a lot of professional mechanic viewers, and I take that as a huge compliment that professional mechanics would watch me and even admit sometimes they learn from me just as much as I learn from you guys. Again, I don't want to give the impression that professional mechanics are incompetent like that and everything. You've got to remember the nature of this channel. I am getting the cars that other people couldn't figure out. So it's going to give that impression that happens a lot. I never see the tens of thousands of more cars that never come to me because they were properly diagnosed and fixed by a professional the very first time. So just something to keep in mind. This is a video about respecting you guys, so I do want to make sure that I reiterate that. I know you guys appreciate it when I make that point. And also that you acknowledge that, yeah, there are often times where mechanics make the wrong call. Maybe they made the wrong call for the first time ever, right? So, I do want to point that out, but it's just the nature of this channel that we do get a lot of that. But the Jeep owner did talk about some of his frustrations with experience that a lot of you guys can identify as well. Maybe it's why you became do-it-yourselfers. The amazing thing about this is ever since the repair, not only has the guy not needed any more fuel pumps for years now, but that Jeep still runs. As a matter of fact, he's brought it to me for maintenance every once in a while. And one of the things that I did recommend is that we do a differential fluid change. And in doing the differential fluid change in the rear of the vehicle, man, I wish I had shown you guys this, but there's a magnet in the back of the drain pan that when you remove the back cover, this magnet captures any worn metal material from the carrier and things like that. And there was a almost baseball-sized ball of shaved metal from the ring gear being so worn. It is a miracle that this car still drove. I strongly recommended the guy is going to need a rear end rebuild before very long. You could just see the teeth worn, but there was still a little bit of engagement with the pinion. And he never did that. That car is still running. The guy's from St. Louis like I am. He occasionally drives the vehicle from Denver to St. Louis. He's done that like 6 times since that video. Still no issues, but that Jeep will not die. It is absolutely amazing. But good happy ending on that story, and the guy continues to enjoy his Jeep. And I'm sure we'll be doing a rebuild video on that rear end at some point, but it's like Jason from Friday the 13th. You just can't kill that vehicle now. Well, one thing that everybody who has watched this channel for some time knows is that there can be some controversial aspects to the channel. There are a couple of them that are fairly major. One of them would be, of course, my creation of the paid channel, which we will cover in just a second here. But first, the other controversial aspect that a lot of people have mixed emotion on is my unwillingness to ignore trolls, and many people claim that I feed them when I bash them in the comments and call them out on their BS and things. And other people appreciate that I do it because it is about time, I think, that people stand up. Can you imagine how awesome the internet would be if people wouldn't talk out of their asses all the time? If you were trying to find life-saving information about an elderly parent, should you get the COVID vaccine or not? Wouldn't it be amazing if you could just go online, do research, and get nothing but the factual truth instead of all these people talking out of their ass and diluting everything out? I hate that more than anything, and I will not allow it on this channel. I want the comments to be either really good questions or really good feedback or information to help extend the experience of learning on the channel. And for the vast majority of the part, we have done that. But I have no tolerance for trolls. And it's not just because of the effect they have on diluting the powerful resource that the internet is as an information source, but there is also actually a backstory on this that I think will be of interest to you. And it also leads into some ways that I've still handled my philosophy that ignorance never changes unless it is challenged. Let me say that again. Ignorance will never change unless it is challenged. And we actually, believe it or not, have had some successes where there are some trolls who have actually acknowledged that they were incorrect in their approach, and actually they started becoming some of the most diehard viewers of the channel because they realized they were just making up for the fact that they didn't understand the material and they just couldn't accept that at the time. But there can be success stories, but they're very rare. But first of all, let me talk a little bit about the backstory that you don't know on why I am so intolerant of trolls. All right, sit back for this one. So, what was it, like 8 years ago, I guess? I started the channel, and when you look back on it, gives the impression that it started off with this video right here, where you can see the low quality, the poor lighting in my garage and all this, and the sound quality was pretty bad. But the content I thought was really good. This was a misfire diagnostic that I did. The purpose of this video was actually, at the time, I thought a way that I could help build up more credibility would be to do some videos on the procedures that I use, because one of the problems when you're a do-it-yourselfer is that people really are very leery about bringing what is usually their second most significant investment in their life, their car, to someone's home garage. And people kind of look at your garage and go, I don't know about this, right? So I thought it would be a good way of doing that. I also did kind of have the idea that the channel might become popular because, again, my being a do-it-yourselfer, but showing diagnostic techniques, I thought there would be a market for it, and I was hoping at some point to get 50,000 subscribers. That would have been awesome. Well, here's the thing, is that when I put this video out, if you've never put a video out on YouTube before, let me tell you, it's one of the most nerve-wracking experiences that there is, because you realize that when you put something out on the internet, it will be there forever. Even if you take it down, somebody could still have copied it or something like that. And I had created this video. I put it out there. Of course, you're kind of eager to see the first view. So I keep hitting refresh every minute or so, hoping to get a view. You hit refresh, 0 views, refresh, 0 views, refresh, 0 views, refresh, 1 view. And your heart goes right to your foot, because somebody in the universe is watching your video. And so, of course, I give it a few minutes. After about 8 or 9 minutes, there's a comment from the viewer, because there's still only 1 view. And this guy had an avatar where it was his picture. He had the ASE patch or something on his shirt. Obviously, he was a professional mechanic. And he completely bashed my video. Look at this hack. Look at that horrible garage. Who does this guy think he is? I wouldn't let this guy, touch my car, whatever, blah, blah. And of course, I see this and I immediately deleted the video. And Schrodinger's box almost never happened as a result of that, because this asshat just wanted to make himself look good, I guess. But he just completely tore my confidence on it. And I took down the video, thought, what a stupid idea. I had already filmed 3 or 4 other videos. And honestly, I deleted those other videos. And I went to delete this first one. But a few days later, I thought about it. And I thought, you know what? I don't know what this guy's problem is, but that material is good. Yeah, the video quality sucks, the audio sucks, the lighting sucks, but the diagnostic procedure that I used is valid, and people can learn from that and they will appreciate it. So I put the video back up. This was a couple weeks later, maybe. Fortunately for you guys, one of my earliest viewers spelunkered. I know him as Dave, a retired physician up in New England, I believe, up in the Northeast. And he saw the video and commented that it was an amazing case study and he really appreciated my diagnostic ability. Oh man, that was awesome. So Spelunkered, I believe, forwards it to a friend of his who is a retired electrical engineer that you guys probably are familiar with, many of you, Stuzzman52. I know him as Terry, of course. And Terry looked at it and he also gave favorable comment. Built up my confidence. I went ahead, made more videos, and Schrodinger's box was alive and well. But the thing is, it was that first comment that just happened to be a troll comment that almost destroyed this whole beautiful thing that I actually not only really enjoy doing, but it has helped people all over the world. And there are many people from other countries that say Schrodinger's box is their training, because I will talk more about this when we get to the Schrodinger's box quantum mechanics. But in a lot of third world nations, there are not automotive tech schools. They learn from YouTube. And many of them have told me, because of my proper enunciation and articulation with English, that they can understand me better when English is not their first language. All of these great comments have helped drive me to continue with the channel, but it almost didn't happen because of a troll. So given that background, you see how I can think how many other great resources may have never come to fruition because of some selfish individual who probably doesn't even know what they're doing. So there's a little background on that. And that leads into, of course, a way that I have handled this. Many viewers, of course, understandably take issue when I bring negative things up within the videos or on the comments. And I can totally understand and appreciate that. But I'm not going to back down. Again, ignorance must be challenged if it is to be changed. And again, with the low success rate of change, it is enough for me that it's still worth doing. So what I decided to do about 5 years ago was create Cat versus trolls, kind of my troll roasting videos. And this was a way for me to separate out some of my troll bashing from the main video content, so people who really don't like that stuff as much can focus more just on the content. But those people who do appreciate the humor with the troll bashing can enjoy just specifically troll bashing as an entertainment source for the channel, but also helps create that environment where the channel is clearly unfriendly to trolls. I, by the way, cannot ever think about my cat versus troll videos without thinking of a couple of special viewers. That would be Sally Ann and her dad, Today in the Shop Bansky, who religiously watch all the troll videos. And they used to watch them together all the time as father-daughter team. Well, as you can see, time flies, and Sally Ann is now studying at Leeds University. So Sally, if you're watching, I hope continued success with your education there. And don't worry, we will be making some more troll videos for you and Dad to enjoy, even if remotely now. Now, as if bashing trolls wasn't enough to cause controversy, I don't think anything caused more controversy in the history of the channel than when I started a pay channel. So after starting that, of course, it created an outrage, even from a lot of my most loyal viewers at the time. And I can certainly understand that. But there is a little bit of a story behind that that you may not be aware of that actually instigated that whole concept. So here is the thing. As mentioned, I have been a researcher for much of my career. And then I moved on. When I moved to Colorado, it was for a new job where I was on a technical consulting team where I would go and do scientific consulting for various medical researchers around the Western United States for this company, which is actually the largest provider of services and supplies for scientific equipment in the world. And this new job was very exciting. I was on this very elite team of scientists where we all had different specialties and things like that. Mine was molecular biology, genetics, and virology and things like that. We had chemists, we had physicists on the team. Life was great. It was amazing. I've also got this successful YouTube channel with my hobby. I was building up a customer base. Man, things were awesome. Things are awesome. Well, then we have, as often happens in corporate America, a management changeover with the upper leadership. And as a result of this, it became acutely evident at the time that my team was going to be disbanded, and that at any given minute, I was 95% certain that I was going to lose my job. And then also, to add to that, given the nature of the work we did, we had a lot of IP, intellectual property knowledge. So I also had, in Colorado, it's a right-to-work state, which people don't understand what that means, but I had a non-compete agreement. So I would not be able to work in that field for another year. I would have to either go back to the laboratory or work completely out of the scientific industry field, other than just doing research again. But being in the corporate world and the salaries involved and things like that, kind of a little bit hard to take a step back. So I had to plan for the very real possibility I would be out of work for a year while I wait for my non-compete to expire. Thus the idea that I would be able to last for a year at least if I were able to make a paid channel. And the paid channel was started under that premise that it was going to be my means of support for a year, along with fixing cars and things where I can make some income from. And of course, YouTube has pretty good income as well at the time. The thing is that it turns out that I was incorrect. Not in making the paid channel, but in that we would lose our jobs. We didn't end up losing our jobs. As a matter of fact, it was kind of the opposite. I actually got promoted to a district manager position instead of losing my job 3 days after I started the paid channel, which created a real challenge because now I was going to be busier than ever before right after starting the paid channel. That leads to another story where it did, of course, occur to me to cancel the idea of the paid channel. But this other story kind of changed my mind, to be honest with you. at the time with the paid channel, it was done through YouTube. YouTube had a paid content section where you could create a channel that was a paid subscription channel. And at that time, there were some limitations with it where many third world countries were not eligible for being able to access paid channel content, I believe because of challenges with making payments and the inability for some countries to have that technology. So while I had certainly toyed with the idea that, well, I don't really need the paid channel right now because not only did I keep my job, but I have a better one actually. What happened was through all of the backlash that I got, particularly from one viewer who was crying that he had just at the time bought an iPhone 6 and he is getting nickeled and dimed and blah, blah, blah. At the time, I myself had an iPhone 4. I don't feel sorry for this guy at all for $3 a month. And he's complaining because he just bought 2 model years newer of a phone. That didn't sit well with me, but what really did it was a viewer from Kenya in Africa who said he was extremely disappointed with my moving to the paid channel because in this village he's in Kenya, he is a mechanic. He has a family of 4. They live off of the United States equivalent of $70 a month. $70 a month is what he earns for his family as a mechanic. He is completely self-taught, as most people are in these areas of the world. The way that he learns is through YouTube. He chose my channel as being his main resource. He says that it has absolutely helped him to increase his income and his quality of living. And the problem is that with the paid channel content, he is unable to access it. So while you've got one guy in the United States that is complaining about $3.49 a month, which he probably pays more every day for a cup of coffee, there's this other guy in Kenya who makes $70 a month and is complaining that he cannot pay for the content to watch it to continue his education. Well, that was enough for me. I decided not only am I going to continue the paid channel, but I am going to make my content free for all people in third world countries, and I have continued to do so. And if you are watching this and you are in a third world country and you have not contacted me, send me a PM, go to Schrodinger's box, my name, go to the About tab, you can get my email. Send me an email. I will vet that you are from the third world country, and once doing so, I will give you free access to the paid content. But thinking about that a guy making $70 a month was complaining that he couldn't pay 5% of his salary to view the content. That is why the paid channel has persisted, both because of that first commenter kind of ticking me off, and also because I want to make that content available for free and give additional value to the people in third world countries. Plus, quite honestly, make a decent living on it. It's part of my retirement plan. Just between you guys and I, I'm really hoping to do another few years of work in this corporate hellhole environment, and then maybe just go to doing videos on car repair full time after that. So that's kind of the plan, but hopefully that explains a little bit that I am not this greedy monster when it came to creating the paid channel. At the time, I was kind of fighting for survival. All right, well, I hope you appreciate some of that background there. And again, not looking for justification, just giving explanation and history is all. But let's get back to sticking with the controversy theme, some of the more controversial repairs that I have done. Now, one of the things that I can do as a do-it-yourselfer that a professional mechanic can't do is I can fix cars in a way that you would never be able to let go from a professional garage or something. Am I condoning this? No, but keep in mind my clientele. I very often am fixing cars for people who don't have 2 nickels to rub together. And I have to do whatever I feel is best to help them to improve their situation as best as possible, being able to get their car as reliably as possible to work. So very often I will do some repairs that, yeah, I admit, sketchy as hell. But if I don't think there's a safety issue involved, if I feel that, yeah, the repair isn't totally the way that I would want to do it on my car, but it's the best I can do given the situation and the budget, I don't have any problem doing some of these repairs. Let me show you a case in point. This is also one of the more popular videos on my channel with well over 1 million views. Do-it-yourself diagnostics on a crank no start due to a no spark condition. And in this video, I step it up quite a bit from some previous videos where we do some rather advanced cam and crank sensor diagnostics, doing bypass testing, inducing spark through inputs, all the kind of stuff that we learned on the paid channel with the cam and crank sensor diagnosis and understanding video series. And what happened here is, yes, the clickbait title made a lot of the garage hacks think that they're going to be able to diagnose a no spark condition. The majority of them looked at the material and found it way over their heads. And of course, in the comments, they tended to want to do something to try to bash my techniques here. And especially they did it through my final repair, which, by the way, was not a final repair. So, real brief recap. Once determining that the no spark was due to a failure for the crank sensor signal to reach the PCM, I found that there was a wiring harness that was running over the exhaust manifold that had melted and broken the wiring. So the issue was that at the time, this was actually during Christmas, very timely for this video now, but I didn't have the ability to properly repair this for many days, and there was no way that this person could have gone without their vehicle for that length of time. They already were kind of in the hole having to tow it over, quite honestly. So what I did was I basically ran wires from the crankshaft position sensor, and I ran my own wires past the area where the exhaust manifold was and connected them up to the PCM myself. So basically bypassing that wiring harness, and the result looked something like this, maybe not the prettiest thing in the world. And I, of course, got my usual plethora of comments, such as this one here, which is funny because I didn't use any expensive testers. As you can see, all I did was use a test light and a spark jumper in this video, so I don't even know what this guy's talking about. Up to another guy who said that my repair was so incredibly stupid because if the guy goes to check his oil, then the wires are right there and he's going to pull the wires out or something, as if checking the oil is the most pressing issue for this guy at the time. Unbelievable. But anyway, the point is I got a lot of negative feedback, I guess, mostly for letting the guy go from my house with this sort of homemade wiring bypassing the crankshaft position sensor up to the PCM with these wires, instead of properly replacing the harness and permanently fixing the wires for a permanent repair. Obviously, I was doing a temporary repair for the guy to come back after the holidays so I could do the permanent repair, but I just wanted to be able to get the guy to have a drivable car until then. So, up for debate, I agree. I can understand the concern with sending the guy home with my, little wiring job there as a temporary repair, and some concerns if it comes apart while he's driving, the engine would die, safety issue. I, of course, took every precaution of that. Here's what you don't know. This is a where are they now special. That guy never brought the car back to me. And this was 3 years ago? Something like that, 4 years ago? And that car is still operating off of my little hack repair, by the way. So it's absolutely still doing fine. Yeah, it's not a permanent repair, but I do get a lot of feedback on things like that. Also, things like this. This is a very recent video that I'm assuming all of you guys saw because this was just a few months ago. This is a Honda Civic from a kid who had a distributor failure is what it turned out to be. And we went through a rather extensive process because, of course, we aren't just satisfied with a distributor failure here. We want to know, did the coil in the distributor fail? Did the electronic ignition module in the distributor fail? What is the exact part in the distributor that failed? Now, one of the things is is that one of the first things I noticed was that the car had a compression problem. And I got a lot of flack for repairing a car that had a compression problem and how that was irresponsible because you're basically putting a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging wound, right? So, again, keeping some background in mind here, we didn't cover the compression problem in the video because this is a video about the distributor spark failure and we weren't really covering the compression. The other thing is, again, you have to keep in mind the history with some of these customers. This is a kid from a family who kind of gets by week to week. The kid works at a Jamba Juice to help him pay for going to school. He just started college recently. This car is really his lifeblood. He has to get to work. He has to get to school. The thing is that this kid cannot just say, oh, the car has low compression? Darn, I'm just going to go out and get another vehicle. There is no way this kid can do that. So you have to make a decision in these cases. Do I get the car running again? And yeah, he's got low compression in the cylinder. He's been driving the car like that for 2 years. I have seen cars come in that have driven for years with low compression in a cylinder. It's not even a completely dead cylinder. It just has slightly lower compression than the others. Do we want to fix that car, let him know, hey, major heads up, you need to start saving for another car? Or do we tell him, yeah, I could get your car running for only $140, which, by the way, we covered, we paid for it. But I could get your car running for $140, but I'm not going to do that because you have low compression in the cylinder. So you now have to go out and pay at least $600 or $1,000 for another car. Hey, good luck, pal. No, I don't think that's the right decision to do. I hold by my decision that getting the car running, and again, I don't feel there is a safety issue with a low compression cylinder. I don't think the car is going to just absolutely outright fail if it was knocking and banging and had worn bearings. Oh, totally different story for sure. But given that situation, I think a lot of people don't understand that you can't, if you're a professional shop, I can understand it. I can see we are not going to fix this because you have a major engine problem and we just don't feel comfortable doing it because you're going to be an unsatisfied customer. As a do-it-yourselfer, like I said, I have the ability to say, hey, this isn't a recommended thing, but I'm going to get you by and help you out until you can get financially on your feet to replace your vehicle. So little controversy there, totally understandable, but I do think I'm making the right call and I will continue to do it. Well, let's wind up with another couple of videos. Again, a little controversial. Here are some where I actually have had some accusations made of staging material. And in retrospect, looking back at it, I can see where, because of missing some of the editing and things like that, I could have given that impression, but one of them is one that a lot of viewers really thought was one of my best videos. It was the first one where I actually started diagnosing a condition at the PCM, and this is the P0138 diagnosis from hell. This was a 2000 Maxima that I went on a total rabbit hole with, and I don't think it could have been any more fun. Eventually leading up to the suspicion that there was a lack of control from the PCM to activate the heater circuit for the O2 sensor. And in further examination, I found out that that was not the issue, that somewhere in the car there had to have been an open in that circuit. And I, of course, had to use my wire tracer to find it down, and eventually off camera did and cut to showing my repairing the wiring. This brought some severe objection from some people that are like, how does a wire just cut or burn up or something in a wiring channel? And there was a lot of debate that I actually had either staged this or something like that, which is actually one of the reasons why I started including viewers in some of my videos, because I've got the owner of the car right there as evidence that I'm diagnosing in front of the viewer. So there is no staging going on. Trust me, I get enough cars that I have to turn away because I don't have time to do them. I do not have to do that. But in that video, it definitely was a little unclear. How could this O2 sensor wire have broken inside the vehicle along a channel? And what was not shown in that video, and I just accidentally failed to put it in with the edits, the owner of the car had a problem with the seat. And the seat kept on falling back to its full recline position. In order to fix that problem, he used a big long 2x4 to prop up the seat and, of course, pin the 2x4 in the channel in the carpeting so it would stick. Well, along that channel in the carpeting, of course, was the wiring harness. And the 2x4 had eaten into the wire harness. Failed to show that in the video, and of course, rather than people suspecting there must be logical explanation for it, they jumped to the conclusion that I just am jumping to some wiring problem, and boom, the car is fixed. I actually show that the car is fixed at the end of the video. So if I fixed the car, why didn't I show the actual way I fixed it and make up a wire repair? Unbelievable. It actually also happened again, the same exact thing in this video. Here's a video where I clearly diagnosed there must be an open in the wiring to the air conditioning compressor clutch. And that wiring was found to be open, and you can see this perfectly cut wire here, which people were complaining about. And the allegations were that, according to my explanation of the symptom, it made no sense that this guy was driving along with his air conditioning, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a wire perfectly cuts in half, and he doesn't have his air conditioning anymore. And I just happen to conveniently be able to diagnose this problem. No, that's not even remotely how it worked. As I even explained in the video twice, as is often the case, I get cars where they've had engine replacements and all kinds of crazy things before. And what had happened was the wiring for one of the harnesses was actually spliced in using butt connectors. You're familiar with those butt connectors that I hate and actually really very rarely use. And an improperly spliced butt connector where it was almost cut all the way through was the reason why the wire was cut so perfectly cleanly. If you've ever used these butt connectors before, you know you have to crimp them. If you crimp them too deep, you actually cut through it. And of course, that's what happened here. There were probably just a couple strands of wire that were connecting. And of course, with the load on the AC compressor clutch, burned up those wires, making this perfect cut. In the edits, I did fail to show the other end of the butt connector where clearly it was an improper butt connection. But yeah, you get, as a do-it-yourselfer, just even the fact that you're a do-it-yourselfer and you're fixing other people's cars, I get a lot of flack for. But all I gotta say is that an engine replacement shop is the shop that did that electrical repair on there. And how many videos do I have where there were engine replacements and there were electrical problems as a result? So, you know, my being a do-it-yourselfer, I'm totally not convinced that that makes me worse at doing this stuff than some professionals, by the way. All right, and that will bring us to a final video on this special, and that is, again, a controversial one where we want to see where this vehicle did end up, and that is a recent video where we had a rather significant engine failure with a car that the owner of the car asked me, could I at least just help them out financially by putting the car together to a point that they can at least drive it to a storage facility some 20 miles away, and they can deal with the problem however they're going to deal with it at a later time. So this, of course, most of you have seen in the video, Muffler Shop says this engine is blown. And in an unexpected turn of events, because my impression of what a Meineke has evolved into has changed. I'm used to it being just a muffler shop. So I was a little surprised that the technician accurately diagnosed that there was a failure with the camshaft phaser and that it caused the timing to jump and actually bent a valve in the engine. What I did was mostly to prove the concept. I put the engine back together in time, ran the engine, yes, completely dead in one cylinder, and arguably against better judgment, I did return it to the customer saying, you asked me to get you a car that will drive you 20 miles. Here's a car that will drive you 20 miles. Well, actually, it's been hundreds of miles now, and that car is still running. As a matter of fact, I regularly have cars come in with completely dead cylinders that have been running literally for years. So I think a lot of this maybe people just don't have the experience, especially if they are do-it-yourselfers, and they see a car with a dead cylinder and think that is undrivable. That actually isn't true. You can drive cars with dead cylinder for years. They run like crap. They won't pass emissions. But, you know, in retrospect, yeah, I can kind of see this one was maybe a little bit questionable letting that car go given, you know, potential safety concerns and stuff like that. But again, I have seen cars run like that for years and years and years. Again, I'm just trying to do what I think is best to help out the customer, and if they get another few months out of a car and it lets them build a financial situation that they can either get the proper repair or replacement, that is one of the things that I will offer to do that most professional people would be unable to because of their policies or whatever. So actually, I'm kind of proud of that. All right, well, let's close this out with one final follow-up video, and that is what also one of the most popular videos on the channel, a humanitarian effort to help out my friend Dory. A lot of controversy on this one I just thought of, by the way, because Dory has a little bit of an alternative lifestyle that I called out in the video. Again, unbeknownst to the people that hacked on me for calling that out in the video and making some fun with it. Dory approved of everything and thought it was hilarious. Many of the jokes that I made and everything were actually her idea. We sat through the editing together. Dory's a friend of mine. And for those of you guys that are familiar with this video on her Mountaineer, where she developed a catastrophic failure with the transfer case, or maybe the differential it was, do know that Dory condoned the humor in the video, and that was not known to a lot of the people that felt necessary to defend her. Always funny when people don't know the backstory. But here is an interesting Christmas miracle for you guys who may be so inclined to believe. So after fixing Dory's car, and of course, as you saw in the video, we did fix it for her for free at our expense. One of the things that wasn't shown there was Dory also had a issue with her seatbelt that was totally separate from the video. I never even brought it up, where the seatbelt wouldn't latch. So not shown in that video, I also just went ahead and I replaced that seatbelt latch. Dory had been driving all this time without her seatbelt, but I did actually go ahead and also replace the seatbelt for her free of charge. Well, about 8 weeks after the filming of that video, Dory is driving her car along, absolutely doing great, and she is struck by a drunk driver. And actually, she's injured. She believes that had I not fixed the seatbelt for her, it could have been a catastrophically different result than her just spending a couple days in the hospital. And Dory is doing very well. Unfortunately, the Mountaineer is no more, but she credits my taking the extra time to notice that seatbelt problem and fixing it. And I don't know that it saved her life, but certainly saved her from considerably more personal damage in that accident. And just wanted to end on kind of that happy note. Dory's doing great. We helped her to find another car, and she is doing just fine with her life. And she still thinks that that video is hilarious, by the way. So for you guys that were trying to come to her aid and defending her, again, little education changes things quite dramatically, doesn't it? All right, guys. Well, on the final note with that beautiful Christmas miracle story, I want to again thank you guys very much for your years of support. I want to thank all the viewers on both channels for your continued support and helping the channel to grow and evolve into really what I think is recognized now as one of the critical diagnostics channels on YouTube. A goal that has now, quintupled over my original goal that I was hoping for 50,000 subscribers when I started the channel. And it continues to grow, and we continue to evolve and develop our skill sets together. So again, thank you for you guys' support. I love all of you guys. Wish you very happy holidays. And do me a favor, if you get some really cool tools or things for Christmas, I would love to hear about it. So please put that in the comments, whatever you got for Christmas. I would be dying to see what some of you guys got. Hopefully you get an oscilloscope. Thanks again, guys. Hope you found this entertaining. We'll see you next time.